think I need a cup of tea. The world keeps burning. Oh, what a day. What a day, what a day. Oh, what a day. The world keeps burning.
So here's a remix that I made of Erykah Badu's On and On, which I released on my SoundCloud last year. It done fairly well. If you want to go listen, I'll put the link in the description. So I absolutely love garage, and I was heavily influenced by Sammy Virji, and specifically for this track, Oppidan's remix of Mr. Postman, which I thought was really, really good. So I'm just going to run over this track and go over the decisions that I made when making it, from the instrumentation to the notes to the samples. Are you someone who is passionate about music production, making house music, garage music, or dance music in general, and you'd love to make it and release it at a commercial and competitive level? Well, I've created a guide here that goes through every detail of commercial dance to a T, including structure in a song, starting a new track, crafting chords instead of copying them, instrument selections, drums, bass, sampling, vocal performance and vocal processing, ear candy and mastering. Now I remember listening to some dance music and wondering how and what these artists have done, and I spent years developing and understanding this craft and developed this product specifically for you, especially UK garage, where I feel there isn't much help out there at this moment. But after listening to and applying these techniques, you'll be able to make dance music at a commercial, competitive level and get your music signed. This course makes it super simple, and it doesn't matter what stage you're at. You'll be able to learn with little effort. I'm someone who's released music competitively to hundreds of thousands of views over the years, worked with producers and artists with millions of streams, released with labels commercially, and after this you'll be able to send demos that get noticed and are competitive. One of the added bonuses for the first 10 people that buy is an email list with independent dance labels who are always after new music. Now this guide is only £10 for the first 20 buyers, and then £20 after that, so make sure you get it now. And I may take this guide down at some point, as it really exposes some of the secrets of dance music and garage music that professionals have spent years developing. So you'll get a one-up on your competition for sure. The link is in the description and in my bio. Crafting the chords. Well, in my opinion, and I say this in every video, the chords are the most important part of the song. For this track, I've used a 2-5-1 in B minor, which is what the original was in. 2-5-1 basically means the chords in the scale. So for instance, if I'm in B minor, the second chord for the scale is the second note in the scale, which is the C sharp. The fifth note is the F sharp, and the 1 is the B. There I've crafted the chords from those root notes, making it a 2-5-1 progression. Also to add, there is a passing chord at the end of the chord progression. Normally what I'll do for passing chords is move the previous chord up 1 or down 1, but I played around with some notes here just to get what I felt was right. The key to the chord progression is that I'm using a harmonic minor scale, so I'm using B harmonic minor scale, which basically means you sharpen the 7th note of the scale. So in this case, A becomes A sharp. Now you may think there is an A in this scale, but I'm only using the harmonic minor scale in the 5th chord. By doing this, I turn the 5th chord from minor to major. There are so many different chord progressions that you can do. For instance, 6-5-1 is another one, 1-2-5 is another one. The reason I have the 5 chord before the 1 chord is because in theory, that's what resolves the chord progression. You can hear more about these modes and other modes in my crafting chords video that is attached to my guide. I go through multiple chord progressions, the reason why things sound the way they do, inversions and different types of chords that you can use in your own tracks so that you don't have to copy anymore, you can simply craft it out of nowhere. Now this style of garage really takes influence from R&B and jazz and neo-soul, and I really think R&B patches sound really good on garage. So I went to Splice and downloaded some R&B chord patches for Serum. This tends to be what I use in most of my tracks. So my build, what I have done is select the pads that I'm using and then bounce them by right clicking and then bounce in place. This has come up with a waveform here, which I've used a tape stop at the end. Do that by using the fade tool and then going into region, going into fade out and selecting slow down. This gives it a tape stop effect, almost a rewind or reverse. So the stabs play the same chords, they're only chopped up in a different rhythm. Now playing the actual pads on the first beat and then the third beat of the first bar is so common in garage and also other genres. This is something Disclosure do in their wub sounds. You hear their wub sounds so often. Then you can fill up the stabs in other areas to keep the flow of it going. So the bass plays the root note of each chord, just in a choppier rhythm, matching the same rhythm as the pads. The only difference is I've added passing notes in, which you can see here. Passing notes are really good to add in between beats where nothing else is playing. The notes that I've used are the notes that are in the actual chord. I've also jumped up the notes 1 octave because that's another common garage trick. What's important to note is the rhythm of the bass in bar 1 is the same as the rhythm of the bass in bar 3. It normally is the same in bar 2 and 4, however for this I've variated bar 4 just to keep the momentum flowing. In terms of the actual basses that I've used a sine wave patch and also a sub patch. I've layered these together, then processed them using a decapitator and also sidechain compression. Why we want to process using distortion is so that you can hear the bass through smaller speakers. When you're listening in your headphone or monitors, you can easily hear the bass, but when you're listening in car speakers or other areas, you may not be able to hear the bass as much. So what distortion does through saturation or something like the decapitator is bring through the bass. I'm using a 2-step rhythm for the drums. The kick, I'm using a short, punchy kick without so much sub on it. This is another technique used in minimal house or garage. What is a common practice is to have the tail end of your samples cut off and then faded. This creates a minimal effect. Things are sharper and way more clean. Not for all songs, but specifically in this, it worked very well. Simplicity is also very key. You want to chop and change your different sample selections, including top loops. I don't want to add lots of different things in because in 2-step you can clash with other rhythms such as the bass or pads really easily. So simple is often better. I would usually layer claps and snares and rims together. However, for this I'm just using one. What I do with the claps is push it slightly before beat each time it hits. This gives it a swung effect. I have 2 layers of hats as well. They're short-tailed hats and also sat slightly behind the beat. This also gives it that swung effect. The garage rhythm really is made in the rim shots in between the off notes. May not sound much there, but with the other rhythms, it sounds like this. That's what gives it that 2-step effect, that swung effect, that garage rhythm. So my effects, I tend to use risers and impacts throughout each section in order to carry momentum. For the build, I'll use a range of different risers and then impacts when the drop hits, create momentum and also a more impactful effect. Another cool effect I've used is using snares as a build. You can literally copy this rhythm here. There are also these stabs happening every so often. And there's also these reverses. These effects are known as ear candy. Now they're not essential to the beat, but in the right places and done effectively, they can sound really good and create this choppy feel that garage uses so often. I'm also using this crackle effect during the verses, and this just gives it an extra layer.
The world keeps turning like 1, 2, 3. Oh, what a day, what a day, what a day.
So the vocals, there's not much going on. Normally when I've ripped something as an MP3, I'll give it a long chain. You can see more about this in my previous video that I made. However, for this, I actually liked the effect that it doesn't sound too high quality. I also added a flanger in there so it makes it sound a little bit more wobbly. The like 1-2 is also an effect that I've just chopped up from the original vocals and carried through the whole verse and build. I really like it. I think it sounds like Miss Dynamite. I've just used a few effects on it, including some EQ, alter boy, echo boy, flanger and reverb. Give it that wobbly effect and carry the momentum further. Now, like previously explained, you can contact me through my email. I also have this guide where the links in the description and my bio you can purchase if you want to make more music like this and commercial dance music. If you wish to contact me for one-on-one sessions, this is something I have limited spaces for. If you want to contact me, send me an email and include some tracks and also why and what your goals are. I have very limited space as this is a one-on-one session I don't have much time for due to my other responsibilities. And I'll work with a select few clients, normally singers, to make tracks for them. However, if you're a producer wanting to learn more, get that commercial style of dance music and compete with other commercial producers, and I can work with you one-on-one and we can make that happen. If you like this video, like and subscribe so more people can see it and then you can see my further videos. Thanks guys.